Hello, Portchester Public School families. Today in this video, we're going to talk about communicating through email. Now, within this video, we are going to cover four separate topics. We're going to talk about all about your child's school email and some of the restrictions on it and how it works. We're going to talk about a couple of different options for emailing your child's teacher. We'll go into how to check to see if you have any emails on your child's account, and then we'll just review our appropriate use policy for the district. Now, I do want to mention that you might notice that there is Spanish on the right-hand side here. If you would prefer to watch this video in Spanish, you can go to our school technology webpage and you can find this video in Spanish on the website there. So now we'll get right into it and we'll talk a little bit about your child's school email. So you might have noticed on the Chromebook that your child's school email is actually linked to a Google account. So your child's school email is actually a Gmail email address. But I do just want to mention with this that our school emails for our elementary students especially are very restricted. So when your child logs into their email as a new student in our district, they're going in and they're not able to email anyone in the entire world. They are only able to email other portchesterschools.org email addresses. And this is something that we had set up to protect our children to ensure that they're not getting open access with their email accounts. Now, as they do get older, there are some restrictions that are lifted, but we do still try to keep things very protected for our students, and especially at the elementary level, it is highly restricted to only be able to email other people within Portchester schools. Now, there are a couple of reasons that we might use this email address. So within Portchester, you might have a teacher or a principal who sends an email to your child's account with additional information. And this is a way that we can get information out quickly to all of our students' accounts, but it is dependent on you going in and checking for that information. So again, it is restricted to only getting emails from Portchester school email addresses, but there might be teachers or principals who are sending emails to your child's school email address with information. The other thing is within that email address, you might want to send an email to your teacher or to an administrator. And that's something that from your child's Gmail you would be able to do because it is linked to a portchesterschools.org email address. So I wanted to just start with that overview of some of those restrictions and some reasons that we might use our child's school email. But now I want to go into a brief overview of Gmail. So when you go into your Chromebook for the first time, you'll notice this Google Chrome icon on the bottom. If you're on another computer, you can use the internet browser on that computer, which might be Chrome, it might be something else, but on the Chromebooks, you would go into Chrome through the icon here. Once you are into Chrome, you'll notice in the top right-hand corner that there is this 9 dots together, and this is the app launcher or the menu. Sometimes teachers like to call it the waffle, but if you click into that 9 dot area, you can then click into Gmail. And here you can go in and you can see that on the left-hand side here, it says inbox. And that's because the first page that it's going to put you in your Gmail is your inbox. And you can see in this inbox here that there are actually 3 messages that have a darker text, darker font than the other 3 messages. And that's because these 3 messages are new and I have not read them yet. Once you open up an email and you've read it, you can go in and the email will turn lighter like the pictures on the bottom. But if it's something that's new that you haven't seen yet, you'll notice that it's a little bit darker, and that's to alert you that you have some new messages to check out. Now, in this example, I am just going to click into this bottom message here. So when I click into this message, we can see that it says, here is the science journal from today. So this teacher at the end of class might have emailed the students a picture of the material that they worked on in class together. And you might see here that the picture on the bottom is kind of small. So what you can actually do is you can click that picture at the bottom, and when you click the picture at the bottom, it'll make it bigger. So in this example, we can see that the teacher worked on this sentence with the class, the students helped write it, and then here, when we're done looking at the picture, we can click this back arrow in the top to go back to the main page. And if I did want to reply to the teacher and send a message back to say, thank you for sharing this, or to ask for any additional information, you might notice on the bottom of the screen here that there is this reply button. And when you press this reply button, you can write back to the teacher. Now we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I do just want to mention also while we're on the page here that there is this delete button on the top. So if you felt that you didn't need access to this message anymore, you can go in and use this trash can icon to delete it. But it's not necessary that you go in and delete the emails. We do have unlimited storage on our school accounts, so it's not going to bog down the device or the computer to have the emails there. And if you're done reading this email and you don't want to reply and you don't want to delete the message, the other thing that you could do is you can click this back arrow over here. And when you click this arrow, it'll put you back at your main inbox page. And you might notice now that that email here is now a lighter color. So before we had 3 messages that were new, but now that we've read one of them, it's turned to this lighter color to let us know you've looked at this message, you've addressed it, and now we have 2 other emails that are still unread. The other thing with email that I just want to mention, and we'll talk about in a minute about how to send a message, but on the left-hand side, there are a couple of different options. You have your inbox, which is where you receive messages. And then there is also this sent area over here. And this sent area is where you can see that I have sent 3 messages from this email account. So again, we'll talk a little bit in a minute about how to send a message, but I did just want to mention that this sent area is an important area if you wanted to see a message that you had shared with a teacher. So now I want to talk about how to use our email. So I wanted to provide that quick overview, but specifically I'll get into how to email your child's teacher. So there's a couple of different options for how to send an email to your child's teacher, but in this first option, I want to go over how to send an email through Gmail itself. So since we had just walked through those steps of going into the menu, going into Gmail, here you might notice that on this main page, there is this button in the top corner that says Compose. And when I click the Compose message over there, you can see that this new screen pops up. And at the top of my page here, it says New Message. So if I were to go to this area where it says New Message, next to that word To, I can start to type my teacher's name. So if I know my teacher's first name and last name, I can start to type Melissa Cruz. And here you can see that the teacher's email actually pops up. So I could click where it says Melissa Cruz and I could then add this email for the teacher. And that'll add it to the top page there. Now, the other part within the email here is this next area says subject, and you can see this box is kind of small, but the subject would be where I would put something like a quick message letting the teacher know what my email is about. I kind of envision this subject almost like a title. Like this is the title of my email. It's not going to have a lot of information, but it's going to give the teacher an idea about what my message is about. And then once I go in and I put that title, you'll see that big area at the bottom here is a great place to add a message. So I added a message here to the teacher. I wanted to reach out to her about something. And in this email, I put out my message. And then I also let the teacher know that I, as the parent, was the one sending this email. Because this email is going to come through from your child's account. So in this example, it says Jacob's account. So this teacher would get an email from Jacob. And I want to let them know that it's me that's actually sending that message. So I did just include my name at the bottom here. Now, once you've typed out your message to the teacher, the really important part here is that you press the word send at the bottom. If you don't press the word send, it won't actually go to the teacher. So once you've finished your message and you've put in the teacher's email address, you've put in that subject or the title, and you've added the content of the message, you can go into where it says send at the bottom here and you can send that email. Now here, I had mentioned before that on the left-hand side, there is this sent item. And if I click into this word sent, you can actually see that the email that I just sent to that teacher that said question about STAR testing is now here. So if I just want to double check to be sure that the email has gone through to the teacher, I can click that word sent and I can see here at the top that this teacher did get my message sent to them. It doesn't mean that they've looked at it yet because I did just send it, but I can double check here to be sure that it went through. The other thing that I want to mention on the side over here is this word drafts. So if I were to click this word draft, you can see that there is one email here at the top of the page. And it looks like there's a message here. So if I click into that email, it actually opens up that box as if I was writing an email. And I noticed looking at this message that I had started to send this email to the teacher, but I never actually pressed send. So that means that this drafts folder is a place that's holding messages that have not gone through. So if you look at that drafts folder and you see a message, you can click into that message here, and you can see at the bottom here that there is that word send. So if you do see something in your drafts that you wanted to be sure to send, you can click the word send at the bottom of the page here to then send that message to the teacher. And if you click back into the sent area here, you can then see at the top here that I now have a fourth email in my sent folder. And this email that was in my drafts folder is now officially sent to the teacher. Now, the other thing with sending an email to the teacher is there is another option to send an email to the teacher through Google Classroom. So again, if I were to load up Google Chrome on the computer and I would go into Google Classroom the way that I typically do, which is probably through this waffle and through the word classroom, when I go in here, I can load up my teacher's Google Classroom. And when I go into my teacher's classroom here, you might already realize that there's those three tabs at the top. There's the stream, classwork, and the people tab. Underneath the people tab, it will give you a list of the teachers in the class and the students in the class. And if you look next to any of the teachers' names here, you can see that there is this email icon all the way on the right-hand side. And within this email icon, you can actually press that to send an email to the teacher. Now, I am going to show you what that looks like in just a second, but I do want to mention that your child's Google Classroom probably has multiple teachers within it, because there is probably the classroom teacher, and there's probably other teachers who have access to the Google Classroom so they can see the data and the work of the students. So it is important that if you look at this teachers area that you know which teacher is the one that you want to send the message to. So here, next to the word teacher, if this is the teacher that I wanted to send the message to, I could click that email icon on the side here. And you might notice that this opened up a new tab in the top of the page. And when we go into that new tab at the top of the page, this actually looks a lot like the email page that we had before. It's a little bit larger, but here it says new message. And then in this area in the previous email where it said to and we had typed out the teacher's name, you can see that it actually already put an email address here. So for this teacher, it put the email jkingsbury@portchesterschools.org, which means I don't have to type out the teacher's name in this area. And the next line is the subject. So again, I can put in my subject, which is my quick title about the email. And then underneath it, I can go in and I can put in my message, my content of my message to the teacher. So in this example, again, I used the same question. And at the bottom, I did include again that it was me as the mom that was sending the message. So within this area, we can still type the same information in the email to the teacher here. And then just like I mentioned before, the really important part that is that when you are done typing out your email, you want to be sure to press send at the bottom of the screen here. And when you press send, that will send the message over to the teacher. And when you do that, it will pop up with this message at the bottom of the screen that says message sent. When this pops up, you can click view message if you would like. You don't have to, but if you do click view message, it's actually going to put you in that Gmail folder. And you might see on the left here that we are in the sent folder, and we can see here that this message was sent to the teacher with this question about the STAR testing. And then once you've finished looking at that message, you've confirmed that it is sent, you can actually go to the top of the page here and you can press the X to close out the tab. And when you press that and you close out the tab, it will put you back at that People tab in your child's Google Classroom. But I do just want to mention here on this page that there is no way from our Google Classroom page here to actually check to see if there was a response. So we will go into that next. So in this part of the video, I want to talk about how to check your child's school email. So again, just a reminder, you go into the waffle, you go into Gmail over here, And I can actually see on this page here that I had emailed that teacher about the STAR testing. And here I can see that there is this new darker email, this bold email that I haven't looked at yet. And this is actually a reply from my teacher to this question about STAR testing. And here at the bottom of the page, I can see that this teacher answered my question and got back to me about the question that I had. So within this, you can go into your email and you can check to see if there's a response. Now, at the top here, you might notice that this is actually the original email. So in the bottom, I have the response from the teacher, but at the top, I have this is my original email that I had sent. And if I had sent this a couple of days ago, I might have forgotten what my original question was. So you can always click back here to see what the original question was. And then with the teacher's reply, if you wanted to send a message back to the teacher, you could do that. So you might see the blue words here actually show you there's some messages that you can click and it would automatically type those messages for you. Or at the bottom, we also have that reply button that we had talked about previously that would get us into the area where we could send a message back to the teacher. So here, if I were to press that word reply, I could then type out a message to the teacher here. So I might want to let the teacher know, thank you for getting back to me, and that time does work. So here again, I could type out that message to the teacher. And once I've typed out that message to the teacher, I can then press send on the bottom to send the message to the teacher. Now, the last thing that I do just want to mention with your child's school email specifically, and just with using their Chromebooks and their devices in general, is appropriate use of email and appropriate use of the devices. So at the beginning of the school year, we usually send out the acceptable use policy, and this is a policy that the children sign off on and that you as a parent would have signed off on. It usually comes home with our back to school paperwork. So this is something that we have on file that you and your child have likely signed at this point already. But within this acceptable use policy, I do just want to mention 4 things that I think are really important that we know as it pertains to email. So with this, the first thing that I will mention is that your child obviously has an account that is unique to them. It is very important that your child only logs in on their account and does not log in on somebody else's account. Even if it's a sibling, even if it's a friend, your child should only be logging in on their own account. And obviously your child should not be sharing their password with anybody else. The other thing is that when your child is logged in on their account, if they do go in and send an email to a teacher or to anybody else, it's important that we are still being appropriate with what we are saying to people. We obviously want to use words of kindness and be sure that we're being compassionate in our exchanges. The other thing that I will mention is that your child's email is a school email address and it should only be used for academic purposes. We should not be using your child's school email for personal purposes. It should be used for educational purposes to connect with teachers or administrators based on educational issues that your child needs to have a conversation about. And the last thing that I will mention is that in the appropriate use policy, it does say that the school has a right to search through your child's internet activity, your child's messages. So this is something that if we feel that it is being used inappropriately, the district does have a right to check it to see what exchanges had happened. So that is something that I did just want to mention within this video. Now, with that, I hope that this video helped to provide an overview of your child's school email. Be sure to check into our school website, portchesterschools.org, to stay tuned for any other parent videos that we release, as well as for any upcoming parent workshops that we might be hosting live. So again, thank you for your support at home. We know that our families are a really important part of our children's success, and we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. And obviously, thank you for all of your support with your children at home. I hope you have a nice day, and be sure to stay tuned for any other technology videos or updates.